Michigan music lovers. This is Scott Baker, musician, music journalist, and producer, welcoming you to the Michigan Music History Podcast, covering all the territories of the Mitten. We cast from around the block of the brand new Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Bay City, Michigan, in the heart of the Great Lakes Bay region. And I'm joined by Michigan music royalty, sitting to the left and right, Dr. J. Gary Johnson of the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and MichiganRockandRollLegends.com website, and Sir Fred Reif, Michigan music author, publisher, manager, and musician. Together they have taught, lectured, traveled, hosted, and have been quoted worldwide on all things Michigan music. Chances are you stood next to them at the record store or shoulder to shoulder at concerts over the years. They are the record crate diggers and the library microfishermen that have dug around for the details, the credits, and the lineage that has been part of the backstory of Michigan music. So grab your favorite beverage, hit the cruise, and take a trip back with us as we open up a can of earworms on Michigan's rich music history.
Welcome to the Michigan Music History Podcast Show, channeling through all styles and eras of Michigan music, from before you were born up through this very minute. And now, your host, Scott Baker.
Hey out there, everybody in the podcast world, in the podcast land, in the podcast epicenter. We are back. Studio 163 in Essexville. We have a very special show, and they all are very special. We just keep ramping these up right here, and we're having a great time. Dr. J, and once again, he's still sticking around a little while before he hits another vacation. So how you doing, Dr. J?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here with the great Larry McCray.
Oh,
Just
yes.
saw him perform at Scotty's Sandbar. It was kicking butt.
This is so cool. Everybody's happy.
Bring some old bridges together.
Oh, we got some
bridges crossing.
We are. This is great, man. This is where the water flows, man. How you doing, Sir Fred?
I'm doing great.
Great. You guys both got to catch Larry come back and do a show with his brothers here. Larry McCray in the house.
Hey.
How you doing, bud?
I'm so happy to be here, man. So happy to be here. And it makes it even more special being here with Fred Reif because Freddie Reif, the first person ever took us to Chicago.
Really?
Yeah. 1986.
Seven.
Here we go.
7?
I think 7.
7.
87.
Yeah, okay, it could be 87. But anyway, we went, Fred was doing Lazy Lester, at the time managing Lazy Lester. And we were, a lot of things happened through the Reif family. So, I mean, it makes it special for me to be here with Freddie. But, you know, Fred introduced us to me and my two brothers to Lester. And we started playing some gigs behind Lester. And ended up going to the doggone Chicago Blues Fest, man. I think it was the 3rd annual one, Fred.
Yep.
3rd annual, yeah. So we were there with Lester. Katie Webster were playing that day. Michael Brush was on keyboards for us.
Oh, yeah?
And when Katie Webster heard Lester band come up, man, she walked right on the stage and gave Mike a big old booty on the side. I know that was Lester. I know it was him.
Oh, what a memory.
Oh, man, I mean, it is just like yesterday, dude. I remember this just like yesterday.
Unreal, man.
And you and your brothers were playing in the street after, or in the corner.
Unbelievable.
We sure did, man. We got tips. We got money, we got food stamps, we got everything else in there.
A flip-flop thrown in there, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know, back in them days, there was a lot of street musicians in Chicago, and it became such a popular thing that they shut them down because they didn't know how to charge the cats taxes.
Ah.
But I mean, you know, I think that's a slap in the face, man. If a cat got tough enough times and he got to go to the street and bust, you know, that's just, I don't know, I'm not going to get into all that, but I mean, I just thought that was so unfortunate that nowadays you can't even, you know, but then they wonder how come some cats rob and steal. You know, it's no outlet sometimes for some people to do it in a way, in an honorable way. You know, they sometimes people are forced to do things that normally maybe they wouldn't do. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's telling some stories there.
And so much for that. I mean,
I know what you mean. Oh, I know what you mean, though. But you know, it is unfortunate how things come around and how they do.
Yeah.
And you've seen it firsthand.
Well, we live in a hell of a country. I think America is still the greatest country in the world to live, and I've had a chance to go to a few places and see the difference. but we still have a lot of room for improvement. And the thing that I think as people and as a nation, we can't get frustrated and just give up on it. You can't give up on it. We got to still, no matter how many times you fall, as long as you living, you still got to get up and try it again. Yep. You can't get discouraged. You still got to try. And I think the thing maybe where we fall short is that we put too much pressure on ourselves, or maybe sometimes set our expectations too high in comparison with reality. But success is not always measured in dollars and cents. It's in the heart, and it's how you are perceived and how people receive you.
And a lot of people miss that.
And I think it's important to realize that.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And a lot of people don't get to hear that. They don't recognize it. They're in a rut or in a mode that they can't shake that feeling.
Well, life teaches its lessons. We spend our whole life chasing dreams and trying to accumulate this big old thing of wealth, and we think that gives us status quo in life. But as some people say, or as the saying go, I never seen the brink truck behind the hearse, going to the graveyard, When it's time to go, we leaving just like we come, and that's with nothing.
You got it.
We leaving with nothing. So the thing to do is what I have learned to do is keep what you need, but share what you got. Keep what you need. You need self-sustenance. Everybody needs sustenance. But if there's a margin where that you can afford to share some things and make things a little bit better for somebody else, do it. If you're not hurting yourself. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to be kind in any way you can.
Exactly. That's my whole point.
Yeah.
My whole point.
Yeah. A fantastic little bit there, Larry. What's funny is as I hear you talk that, and it's across the board, but people will go, there's a direct line right there to the blues. To the honesty of it. That's telling the truth right there on what's going on. I could hear it, in the backstory and in how it is modern day blues right there, man. And,
right.
Man, well, I want to switch the gear back. Last weekend, was that the first time you played with your brothers in a while in front of a crowd?
It had been some years. I don't remember the last.
They asked me, and I'm like, man, I didn't think that.
Probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow, you kicked off the rust pretty quickly there because you wouldn't have known that it had been a while. You're just right in the pocket.
It had been a while, you get spoiled and get used to having keyboards in your rhythm section. It's hard to go back to the trio sometime, but I just try to reflect upon basics. And something that I have come to realize since I had all this time to sit around and rest up during the pandemic is that I'm a really big acoustic guitar fan. And it brings back a lot of simplicities and puts you in a place to make music where that is stripped down to the purity of the music. And it's really beautiful, and when you think about it like that, we always want to have the best sound, the best production, and the biggest this and all of that. But music is true to form, and it's pure. And when you can get it pure, man, it really makes you appreciate a lot of things that I have forgotten about.
Well, it sounded like the two numbers you did solo at the end sounded almost like you probably wrote those on an acoustic guitar.
I did.
Yeah, and I thought they had kind of an Otis Redding feel to it. Were you channeling a little Otis when you were writing those?
Well, I'm a big fan. I don't really exactly know what I was channeling when the songs came to me, but I think they came as a product of our environment and what the whole world was experiencing. One of the songs was called No More Crying and No More Pain, and it's all about all the life loss and death to the pandemic and just loss of life in general.
Right.
So we all got a whole different take on this behind this situation. And the other one is, what does it matter? Without love, it don't matter. And like I say, I've been through a lot. The last 10 years, I'm a cancer survivor now. I'm a divorcee. I'm over 60 years old now, and I've never been any of those things before. And so life is turning pages.
Yes.
For me, and so a lot of things, what used to be important and such a priority don't mean as much anymore. I enjoy this right here, seeing good friends and my association. Simple things. I enjoy simple things now, and I think it really has given me a new lease on life and music, a new approach to music.
Yeah, if there's a good thing from the pandemic, I think maybe that's it.
Right.
That it's given people a chance to kind of reflect a little bit and not be so caught up in the hustle and bustle of our lives.
Right.
Where, things like that get lost.
Right.
And, maybe just come back to some of those very basic, important values.
They say you only live once, and when you're dead, you're done.
Yes.
And I saw. I'm a big fan of Tommy. What's the name? Tommy Emmanuel, and he said, "Life ain't no dress rehearsal." He said, "Live life every day like it's your last day." But I can't even remember the phrase. But the thing that stuck out about it is that life is no dress rehearsal. So get living it. I'm going to try to remember that phrase or find this phrase again. And when I do, I'm going to make sure to take, because it was wise, man.
Yeah.
It was really wise what he had to say in terms of, how you approach living, because nobody's promised tomorrow.
That's right.
We here today.
Got to appreciate every day you have.
We here today and gone tomorrow. A gentleman that I worked with for 33 years, Paul Cook, passed away about 3 weeks ago. Well, I was with him 30 minutes before he passed. We were at a gig together. Well, he left. I finished. He said, "Okay, I'm out of here. I'll see you later." "All right, man. I'll catch you later." I stayed and packed it with my guitar, my amps and stuff, and finished my beer. By the time I got 5 minutes into the ride, his brother called me and told me that he had passed away in a car accident. And I'm like, that was really hard to process, because I had just seen it. We had just left each other. But that's how fragile life is. We here today and gone tomorrow. That's the truth.
Yes.
We just don't know what tomorrow or what day.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That day still catches up with me every day.
It's still hard to process for me. Every day for the last 30-some years, and then just cut off. No more. Like you okay? I know what has transpired and everything like that, but still life goes on, and you have to constantly remind yourself that changes have taken place. It ain't that same thing no more. So it's turn the page.
And it's funny, my wife and I both thought we've seen Paul driving with the dogs, hanging out the car, on and off, passing us here and there. It's being that the three of us have been neighbors for a lot of years lately, and we've all been together, the three of us, since way back when, doing coverage, when I started playing music or as a writer.
Right.
And Paul was in my ear weekly for years.
Well, that's almost 15 years ago when we went to New York City together. Us,
and we were
Julie and Paul and I.
Oh, yeah. When you were doing the Grateful Dead thing, we got to touch on that too.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much emotions going on, and this is the first time you've talked since Paul passed away.
Yeah, I ain't really had a whole lot to say. Sometimes people want to poke you and egg you for conversation, and a lot of people I know just to have whatever they want to say. But I'm trying not to engage all of that and just let the man rest.
And Larry's phone was ringing so much for 2 weeks there, and I call him. He's like, "Man, you'd think I was the next of kin at this rate." And in a sense, you were, because you were his. Yeah. You guys were locked in arms there for so many years. Yeah. But we go way back, man, and it's just incredible to think that voice and that personality and that whole aspect's not going to be around anymore.
Yeah.
But here comes the new era. Larry's going to be strong for the new era. He's already got his game plan. I can see it in his eyes. I love it.
Larry, do you have any new recordings lined up or anything like that?
I haven't made any recordings, but I'm talking to 3 different situations right now, trying to work out a deal. I'm trying to see which way is going to be the best deal for me. So I'm just doing that, and I got a couple of agencies that I'm talking to try to overtake my book. And I got a interim situation with a friend of mine that's taking my phone calls for me. And
so do you have enough material for a new album?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Beside the songs what I have, it's a couple of covers that I'm interested in doing, it just to hold true to that part of it. But I've really been trying to focus more on songwriting And I was telling some people the other day that I want to focus more toward a Kev Mo type situation. You know, I would like to be marketed more in a vein like that, but still maintain the option to play electric, in which he does too.
Right.
He works a lot by himself, but when we want to play with a band, he plays with the band. I just hope that I can find situations where that I'm not just locked into doing one thing, that they would allow me to, you know, show some different faces at this point.
Mm-hmm. Warren Haynes is doing that right now too. Your buddy Warren, he's doing solo shows all the way through summer up until fall. Yeah, until he's ready to get Mule back out.
Right. Yeah. It's so much easier to navigate with just one person, you know.
I found that out myself over the last year. I couldn't even get my band involved, so I just took what I could and made sure everything was safe. And now that the floodgates are cracking back open slightly, it's like try to feel our way back in now, you know. Yeah, that'd be great for you to go out like that. Let's go all the way back, Larry. Let's talk. Mm-hmm. You got I know you and Fred, and I want to get to that section where the McCray brothers and Fred and all that came about. But before that, when did you come up to Michigan? Let's because we're a Michigan music history pod. I want to touch on your Michigan and Michigan blues here.
I came to Michigan in June of 72.
72.
Next year will be 50 years in Michigan for me.
Unbelievable.
Were you playing guitar at that point? Or?
No. At that, but before I come to Michigan, the only time I ever seen music playing was like when my sister Clara played. And so when she come home, she would always bring a guitar and an amp, and she would play for the family and stuff like that. But she had a group before she left, and it was herself. Michael Burke's dad played bass for her. A guy named E.D. Mullins played keyboard, piano. It wasn't no keyboard. He played piano, and Bobby Joe Hendricks was her drummer. So she had a 4-piece, and you know she worked at the little jukes and different places that she did down in Arkansas. You know,
was she a blues singer?
Yeah,
okay,
most definitely. And when she come here, when she got married and stuff, you know, she quit doing it. You know, she didn't have anybody promoting her music or anything like that. She was just that woman with the guitar, what they call it, you know.
Why did your family move from Arkansas to Michigan?
Oh my goodness, that was a no-brainer. It was tough times in Arkansas, and you know it was a hard time to be growing up in Arkansas in the '60s. You know, there was a lot of things that's different now than they were then. You know, I went through school integrations and stuff like that down in Arkansas. And I remember a time when it was kids that I knew from school, and they knew the same thing. I mean, you know, we all knew the code. You know, when we see each other on the weekend, if we saw each other at the grocery store, we didn't say hi or nothing. We just gave each other the look to let each other know, I see you. But, you know,
wow,
it wasn't no hey or no playing or nothing.
So
like that.
The Jim Crow laws were still basically in effect?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was there when Martin, you know, I remember when JFK was assassinated, you know, when Martin Luther passed, you know, Bobby Kennedy.
Sure.
You know, all of that, I was there when that kind of thing was happening. And believe me, it was a different day then. It was totally a different day. So besides that, and beside the economic inequities, you know, we left and, you know, come to Michigan. Me and 3 of my other siblings, we all, 4 of us, all went to work for General Motors. Mm-hmm. And then my other brother worked for Wicks Machine Tool. He was a journeyman. And there, I mean, so, you know, life was good in the 70s here. You know, we came, everybody went to work. Shit, we driving vehicles, you know, much better living situation, the whole thing, you know, it was a different day, you know.
Well, that's, you look back in Michigan history, music history, and the migration from the South was such an important factor in the way music developed in this state. You know, not only the blues, but country music as well, and the blend of all the different styles
country
together.
Music was never nothing but across the track. That's all. It was the same thing. Right. It was just them boys on the other side of the track doing the same thing. You know, so with that being said, I grew up with a strong country background. I mean, you know, Porter Wagner, Speck Rose, you know, a big hee-haw fan. You know, I was a Dolly Parton fan. I love Dolly Parton. Charlie Rich, Conway Twitty, big Conway fan, George Jones, stuff like that. Johnny Cash,
Sure.
big Johnny Cash fan as well. So I mean, I didn't have no discrepancy in terms of what music I listened to. I had a standard. It had to be good to, what I thought was good anyway. I thought I had a standard, but if it was good, I didn't care what it was. I'm listening. I was a big Pete Fountain fan. Pete Fountain.
Clarinet player.
Yeah, Pete Fountain, Clyde McCoy, stuff like that. What's his name? Benny Goodman. I listened to a lot of swing music and stuff like that. Big band coming up as well,
Right.
know. Mm-hmm.
That's what your family's so well rounded musically. It just makes. I mean, I listen to what Steve listens to when I see Steve, and I hear you, and it's like there's some funk and there's a little bit of everything going on.
When we were little, they taught us you had to learn how to identify the instruments by sound. So I'm talking about when we were little bitty kids, they said, "What is that?" If it's a clarinet, you say, "What is that?" Trumpet, baritone. You had to be able to identify the voices when you heard it, and that was always fun. That was a game for us to. To guess what it was, no, yeah, you're right. I
do that with my twins right now.
Do you really?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's good.
We always say, "Who is this? What is that? What are they doing?"
And another thing that I found out when I became a father is that the doctors say that if you introduce music to a child before they're 2 years old, that you stimulate parts of the brain that otherwise never become engaged. I guess unless it's some other way to do it, but you're turning their brain on when you give them music, at a young age.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you guys got it turned on in a long time ago, and that was your thing.
Well, that was one good thing. That was one good thing they gave us.
Tell me about your path as you got up here to become a local musician, or where were you playing when you first started out playing around here, Larry?
Well, when the way I learned to play was that there's some musicians that used to come to my sister's house on the weekends, and they would come there and they would bring bass, drum, guitars, and every now and then it might be a Rhodes or Wurlitzer play or something like that, but mostly 2 guitars, bass, and drum.
Was that Frank Washington?
Frank and James Perkins, Harry Brooks.
Right.
The old Johnny Bias.
Oh. Okay.
Johnny Bias and my sister.
At Clara's?
Yeah, at her house. We lived on the south side on Grant Street. We lived on right off the corner of Grant and Ortman. And it was a popular corner because I don't know if you remember the old Parker ice cream dairies. That back in you remember, I know you do. They had them in our neighborhood. They had one up on Hess Street. And all the kids in the neighborhood used to go to the dairy to get that ice cream. They had ice cream, they had cookies, they had pop and everything. So we was right on the corner where all that was going. So all the kids coming by our place, where they would be playing music in the house. And so it would attract all the kids, from the neighborhood from that. And next door was this Spanish man, a Mexican man, our neighbor. His name was Frank Silva. And Frank was all but a country and western star, man. I mean, we thought Frank was Johnny Cash or something because Frank had the dress, he wore the clothes and the rhinestones and all that stuff. He had the
nudie suit. The nudie suit.
I don't know.
That's what
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he was proud, man. He had his big cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And Frank had a gold tooth in front and Larry Canary. And he had a smile, man. When Frank Silva put that smile on you, that was it.
Oh man.
He had country music star potential. We thought he was somebody like that,
Wow.
So Frank would be sitting up on his banister a lot of time. Goodbye, Joe. Me gotta go. He sang all these Hank Williams and some George Jones songs. So another dose of country music.
Oh man.
Right there, and I had to been about 12 years old. I was 12 when I come here, so I was 12, 13, 14, taking all this in.
Wow.
By the time I turned 14, Al Lindbergh had opened Watermelon Sugar, and I would ride my bike from the south side over across the bridge to get to go in there and tinker around with them instruments.
You rode your bike there?
Yeah.
No doubt. That's pretty close.
What year did you sit in?
That was in Old Town, or in the Old Town, but across the river. I got you.
It was across the bridge for me.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What year did you play with when you came in at the Hamilton Street Pub and sat in with Tucker? Ron Tucker? That was in the 70s, wasn't it? Or early 80s?
It was early 80s. Ron Tucker and Ron Gorski.
Right. Because I was the drummer in the band.
Right. That had to been right about 80. And then we started playing that in McCray Brothers around about 83, 84. And went from there to about 88. So about a 4-year stint. Right. Where we played almost every weekend over on Hamilton Street.
Hamilton Street, or that place here in Bay City on Broadway?
Used to be Walcott's.
That's it.
Used to be
I
Walcott's.
Remember that name.
Yeah.
Walcott's Frontier Bar.
Sure was.
I'll be darned. That's a name that I haven't heard in all of our podcasting yet, or from anybody locally.
I kept forgetting that name.
Yeah, Walcott's. Right down the south end there, right there by what's that restaurant? What's in there now, Fred?
I think it's empty now, isn't it?
It is, but it used to be.
Well, there was Paul's Diner down there that used to have the sign with the Paul's was spelled out on little hamburger buns, and that was right across the street from the Coke plant.
Oh, so right on
Mr. Hot Dog used to be down there.
At Broadway. Okay.
I was telling somebody else too. I started over here at Dietz's bar.
Dietzels?
Oh man, Dietzels.
Dietzels Den?
That's right. Right there in the corner where it's a bakery. There now on Columbus Street. You know where the bakery is on Columbus?
Oh yeah.
Well, they revamped the street didn't even used to be that like that. And Dietzels Den set back in that little patch of land that was in between there. So old man Dietzel, he had the coldest beer in town, man, and you drink beer out of fruit jar. And then we wasn't nothing but boys, but back then you could drink at 18. Mm-hmm. And so we go in there and play some music at Mr. Dietzel. He'd give us a few dollars and give us all the cold beer we wanted to drink, man, and that's all we needed.
What a story.
Yeah, Jerry Dietzel was my first music buddy over here in Bay City. Me, Jerry Dietzel, and a guy by the name of Eddie Coburn. On bass, he plays string bass. They call him Bosco, but he ended up, Ed been in Detroit for about 30.
Yeah, he played with
30 something years. Yeah, played with Silk and used to play with the All God's Children Jazz Band. They were him and Jerry Holmes, Billy
Howell.
you got my back. Yeah, Billy Howell. And who else was in there, Fred? Felton Sparks, which was one of the he wrote some scores for the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson.
Oh, really?
Tonight Show. Yeah,
he was big time.
There was some serious jazz boys.
Throwing down some Michigan info we do not have on our podcast show.
Oh, Jerry Holmes and Jerry Felton, Eddie, and who was the drummer?
I can't think of his name.
I'm trying to remember who the drummer was, too.
So you said Eddie Coburn's in Detroit?
Yeah, he'd been there for 30-some, probably about 35 years at least.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one year you were out in what, 77, 78, Larry, playing live? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was just picking and grinning with your brother somewhere, or jumping in on open mic?
We were coming to Dietzel's. We were coming to Dietzel's over here. Shoot, back in the late 70s, we all thought we had our bro game down in the Soul Chain. so the whole thing was we had been nowhere, never left the neighborhood. Boy, don't y'all go over to Bay City. Don't go so-and-so, don't do this. They had us scared to leave the freaking house.
Oh, man.
And when I come to Bay City, I started making friends and meeting people, man, and I never did look back. Bay City, to me, is just as much my home as Saginaw because I know so many people, and most of my friends here that I know been just about 40 years. The whole gang that I run with now. From Mike Mitchell to a lot of the guys that we've lost from out of there, like Mark Nearing. And Steve Donald, Spider. I don't even know Spider's real name. We never called him nothing but Spider. Yep. But part of that whole gang is Leo. Leo's gone. Mm-hmm. A lot of them boys falling off. Now Paul Cook is gone. Mm-hmm. So but I'm just saying, how if you listen to what people tell you, a lot of times you'll never even raise your head up to even look to see what's out there, see what's around.
Right.
You got to live life and do according to what's right for you. And so that was a big lesson for me.
Well, I think you've took that to heart. I remember reading the first stories when you decided to go national. You had to quit your job, and that was a big deal. I mean, that was in all the newsprint. That was what a kid like myself in high school going, the guy quit his job of his life. He had his gigs in town, and he wants to go national.
I wanted to see some of the world, Scott. I would hate to be looking back now, regretting that at this age that I never been nowhere, never did anything, never traveled, never have had some of the experiences that I have had in life. I met all my heroes, all from B.B. King to Buddy Guy to Junior Wells to Albert King to Albert Collins. I mean, I was Luther Allison. I was on first name basis with these people. Hey, Larry, what's going on?
Oh, man.
How you doing? And I never thought that I would get past 3012 Grant Street when we lived there on the south side, I didn't dream up that I was going to be a musician. I always hoped that something would happen like that, and I have had those dreams of meeting that. When I was a kid, I dreamed that I met B.B. King, and that was just like as real as anything could be. And when I did, it took a long time for the reality of all that to sit home, to sink in, and to really realize what I had did. I knew Gary Moore on a first name basis. I met Ian Gillan. Is it Ian Gillan?
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, him. The Eagles. Several people. I remember I was afraid to meet Greg Allman. Them. They had to twist my arm to go meet Greg Allman, because during the early 90s, them guys were still young men. They probably were 40 years old. In the prime of their life. And I seen them boys with a rebel look and everything like that. I'm like, hell to the no, I don't want to be Greg. And then when I finally did get a chance to meet him, he was one of the nicest guys that I had ever met. And I don't know if I could maybe even put Dickie a notch on top of that, because he was even more personable. And you hear all the Dickie's bits, so Dickie so-and-so, Dickie got a danger in his boot sock, and just people love to talk trash. Yeah. But when you get down to doing and experiencing some of these things, I love them guys to death. I was so grateful that they accepted me and let me into their situation. I mean, the Allman Brothers were huge, all the way up until the end.
And their huge comeback when Warren joined in '89, all the way till now.
Him and Alan.
And Alan Woody.
They made a big, that was a big jump start to them guys.
And it took, during that whole alternative music era, the Allman Brothers made their comeback.
They did.
And that's right when you were in the prime of your hot spot at the time with Delta Hurricane. You'd done Soulshine before they did, which was Warren's song.
Right.
And you guys had before even all that, though, you look at the Allman Brothers, and they had J-Mo. They were a Southern band with a black guy in the band, and they broke all the barriers then.
You know who else had a big thing to do with that? And that was Lamar
Williams. And
Lamar Williams. And J-Mo tells me that Lamar is the one who brought the soul to the band. He said J-Mo said that was all Lamar.
That was after Barry passed, and Dwayne, obviously.
He said that Lamar Wilson gave them
Lamar Williams.
Right, I don't know why I can't call him. James I know his younger brother.
He's in Lansing, right?
James much more personal. I've been knowing James for 40 years.
Yeah.
But Lamar was out there doing things when he and I met him, when we were just getting started doing things in the 70s.
And you knew him before that, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't realize that he was out of this area until I met his cousin at one of the shows, or son at one of the shows, Ray's son. Is that who it is?
You talking about James?
Yeah.
No, that's his brother.
Oh, his brother?
That's Lamar's brother. Yeah, that's his younger brother.
I just always knew he was at all the shows. Every time we go, he was, and
Cool James.
Yeah. And Lamar was the second bass player in the band, and he held that for about 5-6 years in the 70s.
He was a great bass player.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, he was a great bass player.
He did Sea Level, too, Chuck Leavell.
And great. See, I got a chance to meet Chuck Leavell. The stories, for me, I have to have reminders, because most of my stories I have always kept close to my chest, because people, in the first place, look at you and wouldn't believe. My mother always said, don't cast your pearls before swine. In other words, don't even try when you know that somebody wouldn't appreciate what you got to offer. Why waste what you have to somebody who don't appreciate what you got?
Right on.
And so that, with that being said, I found the need to talk a lot about my experiences. I love talking with you or with these guys because I know they know that I'm not Josh, and they know I don't have no reason to sit here and make up things. But to people who don't know, they wouldn't believe half of what what you could talk about. True. Yeah,
that's true, man. And that's what I gotta say this from a personal standpoint. I got to work with Wagner. I got to work with you, Bobby Hausler. I've had certain guys guide my musical career along the way. And all of you guys brought a little something different to the table. And that was one thing you always like, you know what? When it's time for your friends, do your thing.
Right.
Be personable, but man, take it to the public and do your thing, but, keep it tight,
Right.
And you always were like that, man. And I see that. As we get older, here we are growing older, it's like, man, there's some crazy stories we got in there too.
Yeah, who would believe about the Phil Lesh stories?
I know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay.
No, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, you got any more questions for him from the 70s there before we move on?
Well, one of the my favorite recordings that you're on really isn't one of your albums. It's an album called Painted Blue, which was all songs of the Rolling Stones done by blues guys. And I thought that was such a good concept because, and Fred and I were talking about this the other night. It was the Rolling Stones and also the Animals that really introduced us to the blues, especially Chicago blues. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd never heard Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf or Little Walter or Robert Johnson or any of these people when I was a teenager.
Right.
And then when the Rolling Stones came along, especially on their early albums, they covered a lot of the blues guys, which caused me, and I'm sure Fred too, be kind of interested. Who are these guys? I'd like to hear the original song and so on. Yep. So anyways, when I bought that album, and of course you did Midnight Rambler on there, and I thought I read somewhere where you had said you had never heard that song before you recorded it on a Painted Blue. So I wonder if you could just take some time to talk about, first off, how did you get involved with the project? And then did somebody suggest Midnight Rambler to you, or?
Yeah. Well, what it was, I was hanging around in Chicago a lot, and producer John Schneider, I had worked for him before on some different other projects. I got a chance to play on a project with Mavis Staples, and they had Sonny Landreth on guitar, they had Gatemouth, and they had Derek Trucks. And so I was there as well, and I got a chance to work on this project, so I already knew him from that. And from that point on, I got a chance to do a lot of work for him, during the 90s. So when this thing came up, my name got thrown into the hat, so I got a chance to do the Rolling Stones Painted Blue. I did another number on a Bob Dylan tribute series that they put out.
All Along the Watchtower.
Yes, sir. And also another one where they did songs of Eric Clapton. So I got a chance to be part of all three of those compilations just through a connection.
And that was the House of Blues label at the time?
Yeah.
And you were on that one record was on their label too.
Yeah, I had Born to Play the Blues on the House of Blues. But him and Jay Newland. Jay Newland was the engineer, so him and John were partners, they were producing for Verve and later House of Blues, But also we used to play a little joint in New York called Manny's Car Wash, which I'm sure Fred know.
Well, I'm aware of that too.
So we used to go to Manny's, and you see a lot of different, you run into a lot of different cats, at Manny's, so that's where I used to play, and I used to see John Schneider and them. They would pop in there,
really?
And everything. And Jay used to, they call me L-Mac. L-Mac, let's do something together one day. Let's do a project. I love to produce you. I love to produce. I said, sure. I love to work with you. And one day, round and round and round the block, it came up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's just how it happened.
Wow. And now, just before you did those House of Blues records with them, though, you did get on that Peter Green tribute too, right?
I forgot about that, but that was different. That was a different label. That was Arnie Goodman, and Paul Aronson, and they used to do a label called Viceroy and one called Domino. Mm-hmm. And I think that they might have did a couple of Verve projects also, but it was mostly Viceroy and Domino. Those were their sponsors. So, and the label that was Rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake, yeah.
Rattlesnake Music.
And the song Rattlesnake Shake is on there. And
As well.
They were tying a lot of things together with that whole thing. Yeah.
Yep. That was the label. It was called Rattlesnake
and
Music.
You did Black Magic Woman.
Black Magic Woman. That was one of my favorite. I thought that turned out pretty good. You know, a lot of times you do records and stuff, and you wish things had turned out different or whatever, but that one didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth.
Excellent.
So I was glad of that. But, you know,
that's amazing. And doesn't it kick off the whole 2-disc series too? Doesn't it? The very first song.
It's the first one out of the box.
That blows my mind. I remember getting that going, wow. Yeah. Talk about a game changer. And all the guys you mentioned today already, they were all on there too.
And the difference was we put more of a salsa feel to it, you know, because everybody, you know, it was always a bam, dum, dum, real fast and driving song. But, you know, with that salsa beat, you can really blues it out and really soul it out, but it didn't lose the effect of the Latin feel. You
cool
know?
That you say that, because I thought it was the perfect bridge between the original with Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac and the Santana version that got huge.
It had a little salsa feel to it, you know. But
I was always going to say that. You nailed that one.
Well, you know, I got a chance to go to Brazil and see some of the best samba and salsa musicians in the world, man. I mean, them cats down there blew my mind. In Brazil, 2 places, Brazil and in Spain, in Barcelona, Spain, they got some gypsies. What they call it? They call it flamenco.
Flamenco guitar.
Oh man, they got some flamenco boys down there that would just make the mouth drop right open. Some of the things that they can do and some of the techniques that they can do all with their hands. They do it it's all with their hands.
That speed.
Oh man, flopping. You got some cats. Are you familiar with Paco? Yeah. Paco de Lucia?
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, that's like Paco is the godfather. They all bow to him. But man, it's some girls down there that'll take that guitar with them. Man, will blow your mind, man. Playing that flamenco. I seen a girl that was just unbelievable.
Do you remember Charo?
Yeah. Hoochie coochie.
Yeah, I saw her on some, and she can play the.
Man, Charo was bad. I said that she's one of the. She learned from a master. I read her story because just recently I tried to tell my girlfriend about Charo. She's a big music buff and know a lot about obscure music and stuff, but she didn't know about her. And when we looked her up and she saw her story, it was just unbelievable. But I used to watch her on Johnny Carson and all the late nights in Hoochie Coochie.
Oh, yeah. Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
She could play though, and I remember her throwing down on a classical guitar.
Yeah,
and she was fretting. She wasn't just doing one finger backwards. Yeah. And you're like, she's playing. It ain't no faking here. You know?
No. Yeah. That was the most unbelievable thing. When I watched Paco de Lucia play, it looked like that he just willed his guitar to play. Like he don't even play. Like he just go there and do that, and like music come out of it because it's all from his wrist like this. So you don't see a bunch of strumming or a bunch of flailing. He goes there, and all of his work is right here. And I mean, it's so fast you couldn't even hardly play that fast with a pick.
Did you meet him?
No, but I know his conga player.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Him and Al Di Meola used to do a lot of playing around Spain.
With John McLaughlin, and they did that trio for a little bit, yeah.
They got stories in Spain that one time Paco and Di Meola was on stage in this place in Madrid. I went to this place, and they said, on this stage, Paco and Di Meola got into a verbal debate. You out of tune. No, you out of tune. No, you out of tune. It went back and forth like that. And as the story goes, they said that Paco El Caboing Di Meola, man. Really? That's the story. You know what that is? The quick draw McGraw thing with smacked him with the guitar.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, you out of tune. No, you out of tune.
Bam!
You out of tune. Went back and forth, and next thing you know, Paco cracked him with the guitar.
That explains why that was a one album deal.
Yeah.
So you were too young Scott for El Kabong.
I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah, one of those afternoon cartoon things.
Quick draw come through swinging on the violin like Tarzan. He said, "Kaboing!" And all you would hear is the broken guitar string. Ding!
Man.
Yeah.
Man, so tell me your walk through you started out around here, but the McCray brothers was the kind of the first big thing.
Mm-hmm. We did that for about 12, 14 years, and through a lady by the name of Shambo, who was a local music talent here, very popular in this area. She took me to a party once, and she used to always tell me about this group down Detroit way named Bobby Lewis and the Crackerjacks. And Bobby was just a wonderful musician. He had a cat named Dave Ingersoll that played bass for him, but he played guitar also. And these cats, I met them in the 70s, and they were some of the best musicians, that I had seen. They threw a big party down here, I don't know where we were at, down by Brighton or somewhere south of that. But somebody had a beautiful layout, had a big old horse farm, had this big white picket fence or horse corral around the whole property and everything, and it was probably about 500 people at the party, with the core of them being musicians. Really? So me and my brothers went out there, and we went to the party with Shaw. Everybody else got their turn to play, so once everybody who was rushing the stage got through, we played a set there, and when we come down, it was a gentleman approached me and started asking me questions, about this and that and the other, and why you ain't doing this and why you ain't doing that and blah, blah, blah. And so he set up an appointment for us to get together, and he said he's going to make a record. And so, I had been told that many times before, and I didn't take him that serious, and I didn't go. So he called me back again and set it up again to come and do the thing, and we blew him off again. And so the third time he called me, almost said, "Man, you just gonna F everything up. You don't sure I got all these people that got this set up." And then I said to my brother, and I said, "Hey, we might ought to go down here and see what's going on." And we went, and things started happening from that point. We started recording and doing this and that. I was still working for General Motors at the time, so we started the recording. And on my mornings, a lot of time I would go in the morning and do a couple of hours, 3, 4 hours in the studio, go to work, or catch it on the weekend, whatever I could, and piece that first record together.
Where was he located?
We did it at a guy's home studio in Detroit, over off of 6 Mile and Prest.
And that was Ambition.
That was Ambition, yeah.
Wow.
How did Mike Vernon come into the...
By the time I got around to doing my second project, things had went a little bit better. We did a tour behind it and everything, and Point Blank wanted to do the second record. So they gave us a budget, and Paul's idea was to get Freddie King's producer to do the record. So we sought out and contacted Mike Vernon, and he agreed to do it, and he met us in Memphis.
Because I hooked him up with Cherie, and I hooked him up with Lazy Lester, did 2 albums for him. Leighton and Slim did a couple.
Well, that's how that
and he was also the original producer of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
right.
Peter Green,
John Mayall too.
Right.
Yeah.
10 years after.
All that English. He was one of the heads of that whole.
Right.
Well, yeah, he did the Blues Breakers.
Well,
with Clapton and Mayall.
Yeah.
He's a blues artist himself now. Mike Vernon had the Mike Vernon band out for about 6, 8 years.
Yeah, we're in contact all the time.
And he's still alive, and that's great.
No, he's in the United States now, right?
No, he's in Spain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Because he was in England back when he was producing all those early records. Yeah.
He moved to Spain a long time ago.
Yeah, probably about 20, 25 years ago, huh? At least about that long ago.
The songs on Ambition are... Is there any covers off Ambition? I know there's some songwriting...
There's one cover on there. It's Country Girl.
Country Girl.
Which was Otis Spann cover, piano player Otis Spann. We didn't even intend for that to be on there. Didn't intend for... It's some rampant noodling on one of them tracks on there. We just was warming up, trying to get our fingers warmed up to get ready to play, just doing finger exercises and stuff. And man, when they put the record out that was on there, I damn near crap my pants, man. I was like, no, not that.
Oh man.
But
it stands the test of time though. There's local songwriters that still talk about that record and how you broke through. How did that get to go on? That was on Point Blank as well, right?
On Point Blank. Yeah. This same guy, Bob Hankins, the guy that I told you I met at the party. Well, he used to tell us that he was the head R&A guy for RCA in 1965 and this and that and the other, and he was a martial artist and all this stuff. Well, come to find out, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying, and we never took, sure. And when got down to it and looked him up, and he was in the books.
And you said he cut that at a house?
At a house that the guy was named, I see David Robinson every now and then, sometimes when I go to Flint, down the Guitar Center.
Is that where you did it, in Flint?
No, in Detroit.
In Detroit,
on Preston 6.
So you had to boogie back and forth.
Yeah.
That was my question, like, how did you get from work? Because you were working that time.
It didn't work out good for me. It didn't work out so good.
Well, it turned out good enough to sign that deal that got you out where you could go, man. And
got free, took the chains off. Yeah.
Them songs, man. How long were those songs on Ambition with you?
I didn't know any of that music on Ambition.
No?
Bob Hankins brought all that music to me, and it was already written and everything, and he had musicians and everything to cut those tracks. I just tried to find myself in them tracks for the most part. But for it was all said and done, I did 3 or 4 songs with me, Steve, and Carl. So I did get both my brothers on the project and everything. But that they kind of, I was just along
trying it out,
just trying to see. When you don't have any direction and know anything what's supposed to be, well, it's all news to you. So instead of trying to be like I was the man and know what was going on, I'm trying to watch everything and see where it's going.
See how it felt, and then you took your path into it.
Right.
Was there any musicians or blues oriented, or what was your musical inspirations out of Michigan bands at the time? Cover band, anything? Like, was there someone that you went to see, or an original artist that anybody you can mention that from our area or from the statewide that you were like, yeah, we used to go see them all the time, and that really pumped me up or anything?
Well, I got to think about it. At that particular time, one group that Thornetta Davis was was called the Chisel Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I used to go see the Chisels. I like the Chisels.
Yeah. Thornetta was in there for a while.
Yeah. I used to like. He became my bass player for a while. Rick Ewing used to play with a group called Newton the Salamanders, and also with the Crowd Pleasers. And Rick Ewing was just, man, probably one of the best bass players I've ever seen or ever got a chance to work with. He also worked with Joe Ligon and the Mighty Clouds of Joy and stuff like that. So he had a strong gospel background as well, but he could funk, man. That boy was funky on that bass, and he could dance and do steps and dip by, just act a fool. He could act a fool with that bass and never miss a beat. And then for his topper, after he done danced and played everything he could play, he threw his bass down on the floor and let it crash on a blam and make a big noise on the floor. Then he would lay down and slap his bass over the top like this, and be funky with it. Be killing it. Oh man, he would be killing it just like that. Heavy funk just like that. So he was a crowd pleaser. And then when he would get up, he would pick his bass up and throw that sucker back on his neck and do a move and do a split, a dip or something, and dance off playing his bass. It was something just to watch him do his thing,
Oh man, that's cool. That's cool. I wondered where your vision was with local artists that were on that kind of realm back then, because I was just in high school during that period, so I didn't get to see how you got to see the world at the time, just before you broke.
Right, I got a chance to start watching Ray Goodman, who was a long
SRC?
time. Yep. He was on the Detroit scene for a lot of years. He played with Mitch Ryder. I got a chance to meet Badanjic and Tony Sui, which was the bassist, and I just absorbed Sun Messenger. I used to like the Sunny Boys.
Oh yeah.
I like anybody that had roots. That played real music. Bugs Bedo.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. I would support all them kind of groups.
That's cool.
And
I never got to ask you those questions. I'm like, I wonder what it was like for you to be in your realm, at least the shit that you grabbed a hold of back then, you know,
right?
From around here, anyway.
James Glass,
yeah.
James Glass, and what was his name? Fred. He looked like he was part Hispanic or something. He blowed hard down Detroit. He used to wear he had a grunge look. He wear jump boots with shorts.
Right. Okay, I can't think who it is.
Oh man, I can see him just, and you know him too. If I can call him, I can't call his name.
I'll have to think of that one too.
Yeah, I'll have to come back to it.
So the McCray brothers, Carl, Steve, Larry,
Tony.
Yeah, my nephew Tony. Yeah.
Now you guys went on to, you did some of the Ambition album, but then you got to go on the road through Point Blank and support that record for a little bit, right?
The first tour I ever did was leaving straight out of Molly Maguire's, going straight to UK. I did a tour with Gary Moore.
That was the first tour.
The first tour. I never been there outside of anything bigger than a club setting. Mostly, you know, I don't know if we had ever even played a festival yet at that time.
Right.
But when we left from there, it was straight to the big time. And man, Gary Moore was such a forceful player. Yeah. And such a polished individual, and had such a production, and had everything, the machine was working, you know, everything was in place, everything was where it should be. And he'll come out little country asses from Saginaw with a Fender Strat and a little Fender Twin amp and stuff like that. Me, Mark Miller, my brother Steve, and Mike Brush. Them was the guys.
That was the original tour.
Yeah. But after that first night or two, we learned, we caught on quick. And my biggest my biggest plagiarism, that Gary gave me a compliment about my playing. You know, he complimented my playing, and he come up to my room a couple times when I was warming up, and sat around and talk. You know, we got a chance to talk. And at the end of the tour, he gave me a brand new custom shop 57 gold Stratocaster reissue, and it was plated and signed on the back to Larry from Gary, 1991. You know, and that's one of my most memorable. I mean, you know, Gary's gone now, but his legacy, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? You know, people like they just not catching on to him. I'm like, where were y'all 30 years ago?
True.
You know,
it's true. He's come on that circle where people missed out.
Everybody, he's a guitar god, but Gary he always had been. Yeah. Where were you guys 30 years ago? You know,
how come your brother Carl didn't go over there? Was he just wanting to stick around and work? Had a family, or what?
It wasn't that. You know, at some point, you know, Carl and I had musical disagreements.
Okay.
You know, I was always leaning harder toward blues, and I wanted to be a blues artist and play more guitar. He was more funk and dance music oriented, so he went that direction, you know. You know, and you know how it is, man. Yeah. Brothers love each other, but brothers fight more than anybody. And so it just was time for us to do something different. We still brothers, and we still love each other. And now, 30 years later, I think maybe we might, you know what I'm saying? It might be right now. But at that time, after doing it, as long as we had did it, that was about as far as we could go with it.
I got you. And Mark is a monster bass player himself. Mark
yeah.
And that'll wrap up part 1 of 2 with Larry McCray for the MMHP and the 989. This is our last 2 episodes of our first season, and we want to thank Larry McCray for coming on down and hanging with us. Larry had some great stories and some deep background to finally dish out for everybody to hear, and we were glad to be able to give him the feel like he was sitting around the campfire so he could tell us tales. It was great to get it straight from the hog's mouth. And we hope you'll turn back in 2 more weeks for our last episode of the first season, which will be part 2 with Larry McCray. We're going to dive into Delta Hurricane and some of his classic blues stories of meeting and greeting some of the greats. And we'll be with you soon. Hang in there. Peace out, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you for tuning in. Additionally, Dr. J can be reached at MichiganRock'n'RollLegends.com. Sir Fred can be hit up at FredRife.com. And Scott through ScottBakerMusic.com. You can also search Michigan Music History Podcast on Facebook and YouTube. You've been listening to the MMHP in the 989. From all of us at the podcast, we want to thank you for tuning in.